Thank you very much. We're here again, usual weekly conversation about the country, about what's happening in the country, thoughts, politics, economics, social issues. And as always, we shoot from Ruare, Central in Nyeri. We're always very happy to invite you to just come and have a meal with us. Come, we accommodate you. We just come and use our conference facilities. Today, I want to start with something I found very interesting. So last week, we had some hackers who attempted to get into our national technological infrastructure. And of course, there was the official conversations about what had happened, what had not happened, why it happened. But we all got affected some way, one or the other. People couldn't bank, people couldn't pay e-citizen, KPLC, and things like that. Now, for me, what concerned me, and for the purposes of what I do, was that some people were actually happy. There were people who were very, very happy that we had been attacked, or that it looked like there had been an attack on our system. You know, there was that feeling of, yes, the government has been attacked. Yes, the government is going to suffer. The government is going to lose. I was like, who are these people? Where do they come from? Why would you be happy that your country and your government has been negatively affected? I know I have said this many times, and I will say it again. One of the biggest challenges we are facing today is patriotism. And people say patriotism is simping. Patriotism is not simping. Patriotism is appreciating that politics is seasonal. Today, the president is William Ruto. Last year, at a time like now, the president was Uhuru Kenyatta. In 5 years, the president could be different. In 10 years, the president will certainly be different. Politics is seasonal. And nothing shows that as much as the current conversation about the dialogue, about national dialogue, about President Ruto and opposition leader Raila being asked to sit down by religious leaders, by business community, by the national community, tells you politics is seasonal. Kenya is forever, as far as we are concerned. Kenya, we found it here, we're going to leave it here. So for anybody to be happy that Kenya has been adversely affected because the person who has lost is your political enemy or your political rival or your political competition is very short-sighted. Very short-sighted, and it tells us the level of political maturity that we have. You cannot be happy that Kenya was nearly attacked, that Kenya nearly lost, because you don't understand what the effect of that attempt, or even had it succeeded, the loss of face, the loss of confidence, the loss of money. I don't. That one shook me up a bit. Tells me we have a lot of work we need to do for people to understand that we have to differentiate between the interest of our nation and our politics, and we need to do that. And that takes me to the next part of this conversation. All the newspapers over this weekend are talking about how the president and opposition leader are being literally forced to the table. And they will come to the table. And I think it's now for us to think about what are the repercussions of that happening. I know when we were campaigning, especially those of us from Jubilee, we used to say, if you don't vote for Raila and you vote for Ruto, after Ruto becomes president, they will reach out and they'll do a handshake. And we sold that as a fear factor, fear element. And because it's of the history that had been there before, Mount Kenya was very scared, especially about a handshake between Ruto and Raila. And now it seems like it's coming together. But I want to remove the fear factor that we were selling before the last election and explain this. The effect of Raila and Ruto sitting together is going to be determined entirely by how the various regions react to this. If, for example, Mount Kenya was to wake up and react very negatively to it as a region, then they will lose. Because the amount of pressure that is there for the two leaders to come together is so immense, they will end up doing it. And I said this a long time ago. I said it was not a matter of if, it was a matter of when they were actually going to sit down around the table. So this is the advice I would give. First, it is going to be important for us to learn from the 2019 handshake. I suspect that the president has learned. President Ruto has learned. So one of the things I don't expect he will do is isolate his deputy president. I do not see that happening because he knows the repercussions of that. And Ruto is different from Uhuru. I suspect Ruto is going to do the work of actually sitting his deputy down and explaining to him why this is important. I also suspect that based on what happened, the deputy president is going to be accommodative because, again, it is where we are. And the realities of governance require us to understand. So if you look back into 2019, the reason that there was a fallout between the president and the deputy president, which the president actually explained, was because I do not think the president then, Uhuru Kenyatta, did enough to bring his team on board. Remember, for a lot of us, we never actually understood what they agreed upon. I suspect this president will do it different, at least with his deputy president. So now, this would be my advice. It's going to be important for people to stop looking at what the other person is getting. I know there's always this thing of, no, you are coming to enter the government through the back door, Let us assume that is even true. Let us assume that what Raila wants from the handshake is a presence in this government. That is what he wants, right? Whether he'll get it or not, that is entirely up to the president. The people who are in UDA, especially the people from Mount Kenya in UDA, must then ask themselves, what do you want in this kind of development? First, I would advise them to consolidate. They need to learn from how President Ruto's political community has always behaved. They consolidate. They don't split up. They need to learn from how Raila's political community has done over the years. They consolidate. You're always stronger together. So the first thing I need to advise Mount Kenya leaders, whether you agree with what is happening or not, you need to consolidate. You need to align. You need to circle your wagons. And you need to circle your wagons around the deputy president, because that is our regional leader at the moment. Second thing is you need to decide exactly what you want from this new relationship, because now with an alignment like this, it means the opposition has reduced. So you can actually create policies that you require as a region, whether it's a one man, one vote, whether it is guaranteed minimum returns. You can now decide that coffee, tea, milk, the projects that the deputy president has been working on, you can now actually sit and decide we want this supported. Because let me tell you this, my understanding of President Ruto is that he wants to make it possible for him to perform. His reaching out to Raila is going to be driven by that particular interest. If I can reduce the pressure and the hostility I'm getting from this guy, then I'll be able to perform. Now, align yourself to that particular interest. As a region, come in looking for performance. Remember, you have always said that this government, 43% of the stake of this government is from our region. Please do not dilute that. Remember that that stake is present, continuous. It is not past. Yes, we went to the elections and we voted, but politics is very dynamic. The reality 10, 11 months ago could change, and it will change if you misbehave. If you start sulking or pouting or talking badly about where the president is going, that reality will change. So my advice to the Mount Kenya region, please circle your wagons around the deputy president. I suspect the deputy president is going to align to the president because Rigiji is not a danda, as I keep telling people. He will align. He will sit with the president. I suspect they will agree. He will understand where this is going. He will align. I would want to ask the region, align. Align because you need to consolidate the stake you have in this government and continue ensuring that the president feels your warmth and your support. Because now it's going to be very critical that he doesn't for a minute think you are hostile to him. Because if he thinks for a minute you are hostile to him, that is how he replaces you with newfound friends. This argument that you don't lose old friends when you get new ones only applies if the old friends continue being friends. If the old friends change and become enemies, you're going to be replaced. So can you make sure, as old friends, you entrench yourself in this relationship so that the new friends come around you rather than come to replace you? That would be my advice. Finally, this week we also saw a bit, we saw the former president, attend an Azimio function that was a vigil. And I was one of the first people to point out my disappointment. And why did I make that point? This was not an attack on the president, by the way, on the former president. I just felt that it was wrong for a former commander-in-chief to attend an event that had been structured purely to make the security forces look bad. Azimio was doing politics with that vigil. They wanted to create the emotion of an anti-police emotion, an anti-security forces emotion. These people have killed other people. We forget that policemen are Kenyans as well. When you talk about policemen, you have to keep remembering that policemen are our brothers and sisters. But then, even more fundamentally, was that the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, was in power for 10 years. During that period, ODM, as called as NASA, did demonstrations and mandamanos where the police responded to those mandamanos and protests the same way they have responded this time. They did it to secure the president's interests, Uhuru Kenyatta, at that time. For him to now go into an event that is trying to make them look bad because he is out of office and Ruto is in office is inconsistent and just depicts him negatively. And I want to just call him out on that one and say that was anybody else. By the way, I have no problem with Azimio holding that kind of vigil. I have no problem with anybody in opposition doing that. But when you're a former commander-in-chief who was in charge of the police and who the police have done the same thing for or to benefit, it is actually wrong when you then now go to make them look bad. That didn't come out well. And I think whoever is advising former President Uhuru Kenyatta needs to tell him that one didn't come out well. It might have come out popular, it might have come out looking nice. But for people who stood with him, those police officers had stood with him before, he sent a very bad message to them. And I think that is something he needs to avoid moving forward, hopefully moving into retirement now that the mandamanos are going to be over. I hope he's actually going to retire because we do not want a situation where he's embarrassed or he embarrasses himself. We want him to keep and maintain the respect that we fought for him into his retirement so that he doesn't lose it. Anyway, all the best this week. God bless you. God bless Kenya. Please make a point of visiting for our tea. Make a point of visiting for our conference facilities. Make a point of visiting for our accommodation and Rware. We'll be happy to serve you. Thank you and God bless.